of the self, which is really ego, that one is, that development is taking place from the cues we are receiving from outside of us. Because we haven't quite learned to look within and find the real truth. It comes spontaneously sometimes, but for the most part, it is like what our parents are teaching us, or our teachers are telling us, what is the world telling us. And always, of course, the self is looking for good feeling. And very soon we learn, and this is a big one in my life, is that, if you keep the people around you happy, then in turn you will receive some good strokes which will make you feel happy. Fine, so we learn to do that. I really want to go out and play out in nature, but my mother told me, no, you have to stay home. So I better stay home, otherwise there will be consequences. So this whole need to please others so I can feel good about myself starts at a very young age, and it continues with us. I do want to relate a couple of instances, though, where the real true nature of the self comes out. And that was once when I was really little. I must have been about 7, 8, 9 years old, maybe. I was in the back, out in the garden in this beautiful house that we lived in Bihar, in Ranchi, with lots of trees, mango trees and lychee trees and drumstick trees, and beautiful. And I used to spend a lot of time climbing those trees, just feeling good, feeling the breeze. But this was a particular afternoon when a storm was brewing. And it was beautiful because you see the rolling clouds and you feel the, growing breeze, and you see the trees dancing with the breeze. And I was absolutely mesmerized, and I felt so wonderful. It was almost like, there were songs that were playing in my mind. And I kind of lost a sense of where I was and what I was doing. It was such a wonderful feeling till my mother came out of the house and she said, "What are you doing out there? There's a storm coming. It's dangerous. Get inside." But what I do remember is that was terrible. Like, no, let me just be here. But I did go inside. But what I realized is that feeling of goodness that I felt, it was far superior to the feeling of goodness I would feel when somebody would appreciate me or praise me or give me something. So there is one thing that Yogi Niranjan has said earlier, is that there is a false belief that this thing that we are feeling is eternal in nature. Like in the context of, like, I've fallen in love with somebody, and it feels so wonderful, and this is going to be eternal in nature, and it will stay forever, which is not true, because that is only one of those events in the pathway, and very soon you realize, okay, there is more to be learned. But this feeling that I felt at that time was like, wouldn't it be wonderful to be here all the time? Because there's something very kind of a long term over here. So that's what happened then. And I think last time I had related this whole sense of self sort of supersedes everything else is when you fall in love. It's like, oh, there's nobody else. There's just me and this object of my love. And that's the whole world. So there is an eternal part of the self, which it has taken me a long time to realize that actually all the time when you're feeling up and high and good it will not sustain unless we start understanding the process of what's going on. And I think that is a part of this. How do you get out of ignorance through your studies and, study the scriptures, study the books, listen to other people. And I think that process has taken place. And in the process of developing the ego, we didn't talk about the ego so much, but I think one of the things I've also learned that the ego is a very necessary part of our being, because we will not be able to navigate the earth without a pretty healthy sense of ego. But the sense of ego, the ego is the seat of the mind, right? The ego is driven by the mind. The mind tells the ego what to do and what not to do, which is all very fine. We need it to, build our proper boundaries. And however, when the ego starts to feel that I am superior to the inner voice or the higher intelligence, that's when all the trouble begins, because which is not true. That's when we sort of go away from our path, and this happens time and time again. So we did speak the last time about, some I would be carrying on doing pretty good, and then something would happen which would take me down. And I realized that this is actually, I think the main opening up to the journey for me started to come after I learned Reiki. Because this connection to the higher being, higher part of me, the bigger part of me, greater intelligence, and to be able to physically actually be able to download and be guided by it came in very strongly with my practice of Reiki for the period that I did, which is something that I still do. That is one sadhana that has never gone away. But the understanding of two critical things I understood with the Reiki. One is that all we have to do is ask for that intelligence to come, and that intelligence is superior to my mental intelligence. Because when I am in a place of deep depression, which I realized at that time that I used to have these periods of depression, which I would go through where, like the whole world was like, oh, leave me alone, go away, everybody, I don't want to talk to you. And I become kind of a very difficult person to live with. But it is in the meditation, in the invocation of the Reiki and the practice of the Reiki, always uplifted. And that is a time I also realized, oh, thoughts have energy. It's not as if you think a thought and when you stop thinking that thought, it goes away. In thinking a thought, I have released energy. And if it is a happy thought, it uplifts me and keeps me floating in that wonderful space. But if I have a negative thought, it brings me down. And if I don't know how to manage my thoughts, then that downward cycle will spiral further and further down because you have not arrested it. And it's a time. Or somebody insulted me, somebody said something to me which was hurtful, somebody lied to me, whatever it is. But it is always from the outside because the ego is bringing, and the mind is very tuned into the outer world. And it comes in, and if I have not practiced how to manage that downward spiral, it's very easy to get into a place of, now I don't know how to come out of this. And time and again, I used to be there. And then I realized this wonderful Reiki is telling me, you don't have to stay there. You have to just bring in that higher intelligence, the energy, and just surrender, give, let this feeling get dissolved. So that is not easy to do unless we have a practice. That is where the sadhana, I think, becomes very important. Unless I have a practice of meditation, which tells my mind to slow down. Otherwise, the mind has this habit of, have you noticed this? Did you do that? Blah, 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 blah. To quieten this down, whatever the technique that we choose, I started, as I related to you, started with mantra of transcendental meditation, but somehow the invocation of the Reiki, the guides and the masters and the higher intelligence and the source, all of that somehow came in a way of, it still does, in a way of that I can physically feel that wonderful feeling being downloaded into my being. And it is much easier then for the mind to get out of that downward spiral and start moving upwards. So that was one thing. The other thing I also realized that we don't have to get into a place of darkness and depression in order to be able to get past that. When we train our minds and when we really recognize, that is a part of the vidya, the understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom that comes. When we recognize that, we are very soon able to see the results of all these obstacles, the result of my pride. Pride is something which, when we are outwardly focused, we are comparing. Oh, I'm better than you. Oh, you're not as good as me. I will create an opinion about you. You're useless, you're hopeless, you're this, you're that. And the other thing that I learned along the way is that everything that we see in another person, which we judge, is actually a reflection of that quality within us, which I'm completely blind to. Now, this is not an easy pill to swallow, but that is a part of the removal of the ignorance that, look, the world is a reflection. And so whatever you're seeing outside is a reflection of something that is already inside you. And if it raises a bad feeling in you, if it in any way raises this, aversion, and actually, Niranjanji has written, notice these subtle feelings inside you. And I had to laugh because these are not subtle feelings. These feelings are like wham, wham, wham. And you're like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. I have to take care of this. Then, we reach out to that higher intelligence of ours, which is, it comes from guidance. It really comes from the source and whatever we consider as God. And when we are able to see that and move in that direction, somehow these obstacles start to slowly go away. The other thing I want to spend a little time talking about is this attachment. Attachments are, we all have, but in any relationship, you will notice that because we have taken the formula of doing a good relationship externally, we start from inside, I'm born into this family. I've fallen in love with this person. These are my people. This is my community. However, what I have learned also is that nobody comes into our lives that the soul has not already planned for. And there will be two kinds of people who will come. One, who you will fall in love with and want to follow them and go because it makes you feel good and you'll learn, and because all of these obstacles will slowly start disappearing. And the other are people who will bring up all the lessons that you have yet to learn, your curriculum to be completed. So all your jealousies, all your negation, all your thoughts of I'm not good enough, because that's what happens. When we are growing up, the elders and the teachers and most of the well-meaning adults around you are very keen always to tell you where you're falling short. Oh, see, you got 98% in math. What happened to the other 2 points? Oh, see, you did so well in this, but what about this? So somehow we grow up feeling that no matter, at least this is true for me, it's also true for a lot of my clients that I work with, that somehow no matter how much I do, there will always be something lacking, which I will never be able to overcome. I think this is one of the most damaging beliefs that we create about ourselves. And there is a pathway to move into a place of self-acceptance, self-forgiveness. We go back, and a lot of the times I hear people say, oh, I should have done this, I could have done that, maybe I shouldn't. And I say, forget it. There is no shoulds. The moment you say, my daughter actually has this very wonderful thing. She says, should, have to, got to, ought to, must. Should, have to, got to, ought to, must. Whenever this comes up, you know it's not your higher intelligence talking. It's somebody else's, which you have bought into. And now you think that it's your voice. It's not. Why should you? Oh, because Guruji told me ki every morning you do 20-minute meditation. But I don't want to. So here is the dilemma. There is a path through the will. And I know that in yoga, that is a very, very strong path. You determine and you do, and a discipline and all of that. And yet, if the inner voice, in my journey, I found if I don't pay attention to the inner voice, which is telling me, drop that. It's not giving you any joy, no pleasure. Do something else which gives you pleasure. That has worked for me. I'm not saying that it is everybody's path. And when you do that, these things slowly start going away. This dependence, expectations from relationships. I am so in love with you, I will give you everything I have, but in return, these are my expectations. Nobody told us that we have to identify those and be open with it. We are not. We only start noticing the expectations when they are not met. Oh, what happened? After all, you're my sister, or you're my dad, or you're my whoever you are. Aren't you supposed to do this for me? Why aren't you doing it? And why are you doing such a lousy job of it? And then those disappointments start coming. So it is one of the hardest things to let go of expectations, particularly in our relationships. And yet, when we are able to bring that relationship up from the mind, which is the third chakra, solar plexus, to the heart center, and completely let go, and there is a space of that unconditional love, which has been most elusive for me. But when you start touching into that space, it's like, oh, that feels good. I can drop all my expectations and let me just love you. And whatever happens, happens. And there is a kind of relief that comes with that. I've had people who have told me that do this or else, I will not talk to you ever again. And then you have to sit back and say, okay, should I take this very personally and let it hurt me? Because that is one of those attachments that is giving me this bad feeling. Or should I just let it be and let this person do whatever he or she needs to do? And I will focus on just respecting, loving, giving space, and let it go. There is such relief that comes with it. And such relief, and also such knowledge and wisdom and understanding that comes with allowing people to be who they are. But that said, it is very important to have that ego in place so that when the boundaries have to be clear, you can be who you are, but give me space to be who I am also. Now don't come and tell me that, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you never did that. So in the process, I've learned, that things like our beliefs, our perceptions, our judgments, our opinions, these are all developed because of our external focus. And as we start looking inside and looking into the mind, and one of the questions, really, really most critical questions I have learned to ask in the process when the mind is telling you that you're useless, you haven't done this, and what will happen, is sit down and ask this question is, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And it's amazing how much is revealed. So over here, there is something called the fear of death. All fears are fears of death. I've discovered, not just discovered, but I've also read and heard other people say. It starts with the death of the ego. So if somebody tells me something that I don't like hearing, and I ask myself the question, so why is it bringing up this bad feeling? Why can I not let it go? Why is it making me feel less and little? And then you go in and you contemplate on it and you ask a bunch of questions and you say, oh, because it makes you feel like you have no value. Okay, that's the first stage. All right, so I don't have any value, at least to these people, I don't have any value. So what? Why am I afraid to be valueless? What will that do to me? Then comes the next one. Then the answer comes that, oh, if you don't have value, then nobody will care for you. And then all the people who come to you now as clients will ignore you and they'll go away. So that's what's going to happen. So then you sit and ask the next question. Okay, so that will happen. And so what? What am I afraid of? Oh, then you won't have enough money. You won't earn enough for your living and upkeep. Okay, so I won't. So what will I do? Am I going to go into and throw myself in a river because I am not earning enough? No, of course not. You won't do that. So I learned that as you keep taking off layers with this one simple question, so what am I afraid of? And really being very, very honest and candid with yourself, comes a place when you reach the bottom of that well, which you thought was so deep that it was going to drown you. There is actually a very beautiful pink cushion which is waiting for you to say, just surrender. It's okay. You'll be all right. Because there is this bigger power which you are aware of. Where there is this intelligence which will tell you, all right, now do this. Not because that's what the protocol says, not because your school of management told you that this is how you should market yourself, not because XYZ, but because there is a deep understanding within you and a very deep feeling that if I devote my time to this, this feels good. This feels good for me. I don't know about others, but I feel good when I do this. And as I give that acknowledgement and as I move with that, things start opening up. That well, which was so narrow and was killing me, so depressed, starts to open up. And then the very things that you were afraid of starts going away. So to me, that this is the part of removing your ignorance and the self-inquiry, which right in the first lesson, we learned that we must have the connection to that source. There is self-inquiry, and there has to be a deep desire. So the deep desire is to live and offer and engage with the world and participate. There are people that I know at very close quarters who have not had that fire in the belly. So when the depression has come, they've gone down with the depression, they've gone down with the addictions, they've gone down into that dark place. And it's always like somebody else has to come and rescue me out of it. It's very valuable to have somebody else. But eventually, nobody is going to rescue us. Eventually, I have to take that help, hold that rope, climb up that wall, and come and liberate myself through the learning. As long as I choose to remain ignorant, it's not going to happen. As long as I choose to believe, have the beliefs, perception, and judgment that there is a power out there, better, stronger than me, who can do this job better than I, there is nobody there. This is spiritual work. There is my spirit, there is the higher spirit. It is our connection. And everybody else who comes into our lives is either helping us move up or throwing us into that dark well so that we will discover about ourselves what the treasures that we already have to be able to move up. Let me see. Yeah, there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about. One is that expectations is difficult to live with in the world, but recognize when our expectations are creating our sorrows, because when the expectation is not met, we feel. And I personally, at this time of my life, I lived with two grandchildren. They're both teenagers. And I realized, as much as I love them, I realize the kind of expectations that I have. And I also realize that these expectations are not necessarily mine. They're coming from society, they're coming from my conditioning, they're coming from um, some of it is even karmic, coming from energies that has come through my bloodline into me, which tells me that this is how the world ought to operate. And I'm putting those expectations as the grandmother on my grandchildren. And time again, it's coming back at me like, no, it's not going to happen. And then, of course, initially there was a period of time I'd feel very hurt, very insulted, very, and get upset and angry. Then I realize what kind of stupidity is this? Why are you going down the well? Because there are some young children who have yet to learn about themselves. You can't force it. You just have to love them. And so now I have to really go deep inside and say, where is the love in my heart? How can I pull it out? And having to look for that. So that is the journey of getting past these obstacles. I have to, look at my beliefs very deeply. And so what am I believing about this child? Or what am I believing about this other person that I'm mad with? Oh, he'll never amount to anything. Good grief, your thoughts are very powerful. When you start believing those things, it becomes true. So immediately change it. So now, okay, fortunately, many techniques through many different kinds of, which says, okay, not only will you not go back to that thought, but you will forgive yourself for having thought that. You will forgive the child or the person or whoever it is for triggering that thought in your mind. That person can be whoever he or she is, but you can't think disrespectfully. You can't think from that place of duality, aversion, avoidance, abhorrence. That man is so bad. That man is just being a man like you and me, trying to grow up, get out of avidya and all these other things we have listed over here. Let that man be. And the best way I can help that man or that woman or that child or whoever is by holding a space of deep love and expectation that the wisdom from within will come up. And a blessing I will always send. When that wisdom comes up from within, please give this person the wisdom to be able to recognize that as a part of the eternal and the growth process, and not get hooked in that old pattern thinking and push that away. So that is my journey. One other quick thing is that the knowledge, there is a part of embodiment of this whole thing that I'm talking about. Last time I'd spoken about the soul, the soul is present, and being able to actually, from that abstract idea that you have a soul and it's a part of the source, from that idea to be able to embody it is step by step by step. That is the process which takes time, awareness. That is the sadhana, really, that there is a pathway which the soul has come to follow, to offer, serve mankind. Really, to me, it's like, it's not just for me. You have to be who you were sent here to be, so that you can serve the whole of the universe. You're a part of creation. You can either take it down into this place of dark, or you can bring in more light, whichever feels better for you. So there is always that split. I find that there is a tendency, because the wave is so much, the tide, which I'm a part of, is so much going towards that, oh, they're bad, I'm so good, I am this, and I can do this, I will show you, I'm better than them. The tide is very strong. And in order to be able to live this life that I have coming, discovering step by step, one needs a very strong set of roots, a very strong trunk, and really reaching out. And the strong set of roots really comes from my ancestry, my growing up, my conditioning, all the people who have supported me in both ways, making me feel good and making me feel terrible. Because all of that is a part of that process which makes this tree strong. And I have to be the seed, the tree of the seed that was planted in me. So if I am a mango tree, I can't be a cherry blossom. So recognizing that and not comparing and honoring that in others has really been, for me, a way to move into a place of complete self-acceptance. You're okay. Sometimes you really fall on your face and do some very stupid things, Malabika, but that's all right. That's a part of your learning. So yeah, sometimes you get drunk, sometimes you do this, but that's what really gives you joy to offer to the world. Stick with it, and it will get you there slowly. So I've spoken a lot. I will pause here and let's hear from Sri Niranjan.
Okay, so you hear a version of Malabika, how she is overcoming limitations and always going towards a space which, so connecting or being intimate, connected with the soul and the higher wisdom, which everything is crystal clear and what we can see. No, so everything is clear, no confusion. I'm very nice feeling within self, connected to God and soul, and come to this space of forgiving everyone for whatever person has done and becoming one. So much kind of way. I would like to remind you, I'm coming from the book Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the yogic methodology, which is a treatise which has an underlying belief that a man or a sadhak is capable enough by its own effort to realize God or to know yourself or to seek the highest truth and experience it. It's a technical support of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. No? So what we find here, a firm belief and self-reliance is the whole yogic methodology is self-reliant, which means rely on yourself only. Yes, you do Iswar Prani Dharma, surrendering to God, but still you are relating it. And we need this trust. No? Many times, Malabika also saying that we need a trust inside that some higher being, some higher source is above me and supportive to me and available on my call. That trust Malvika gathered from Reiki, practicing Reiki. A higher source is available on my call. That's the trust. That's give the strength. And in adverse situations, that was always an option open that I can call God anytime. That's where the Reiki actually helps with in relation to higher sources and opening to a possibility of yourself. So on this background, I am coming to the sutras of Patanjali or any of the Indian analytical scripture in Hinduism or Upanishad, Vedas, or all classical books, which we call deductive knowledge, comes to a point that root of all suffering is lack of knowledge, ignorance. Actually true. If you know, if you are here, ignorance is used in two ways. No? And it will be very interesting for you to see the interconnection of intelligence. What we call intelligence. No, we have finite intelligence. We don't know infinite intelligence. We get connected sometime, and beyond our own intelligence, some understanding happens. Beyond our own intelligence, some knowledge descends. Whatsoever we call, I don't want to go Shiva, Shakti, man, woman, female, whatever. But we have limited intelligence. In both the cases, I will be created. Whether you experience God and the phenomena, then I will be created with superconscious memory or limited I, whatever we have, we create our own ego. And in every ego structure, undoubtedly, idea is that I am intelligent. In all the ego structure of any human being or anyone who will have intelligence, the first belief has to settle that I am intelligent. So intelligence giving the first idea about which the ego is created, that I am intelligent. But a finite intelligence. It's limited intelligence. So an ego attached to limited intelligence. That's the ego part of it. Now, when you come into action and relate to world, we create ego, what I can do and what I cannot do. Definition of it. So this ego creation, we call it's you are creating this ego out of ignorance. Because you are believing in your limited intelligence. Open up to God or higher intelligence, and you will see that you are not able to create that ego same way which you created before. And here the surrender. When surrender happens, when we meet super intelligence or something beyond our intelligence, surrendering happening. In limited, surrendering doesn't happen. No? In another way, I say that yoga is a complete self-reliance. Nothing looking outside of yourself for any kind of solution. Inside, not looking outside of yourself. Then, what Malabika was referring to, and we also joke, that there, for a meditator, we divide the whole population in two kind of people. One are born to meditate and do sadhana for themselves. Another are born to make you meditate and do sadhana. They
Yes.
will never meditate for themselves. They are born to make you meditate. So, as a meditator, we have only two kind of people we count. Oh, this person is born to meditate by himself or herself, or now she will or he will make me meditate and do my own sadhana and take my examination, whether I am really meditative or not. So we divide into categories of people and let it be. Maybe it looks stereotyped, but this is how we. Yes.
I just want to add one little bit what you're saying. It's like there are people who will give, feed nutrients to the plant, to the tree. They'll put all the fertilizers, good, make sure there's sunshine and etc. And then there is the other ones who is the compost. It's like it's all the rotten stuff. But that also has got a very good source of nutrient, provided we have sufficient intelligence to be able to convert it into the energy of growth. Without that also, there is no fun. I mean, like, life would be very dull.
Well, again, we are coming to the same point. lack of knowledge. If
Yeah,
we
lack of
know how
knowledge.
to do it, each time, like these are the classical books, and they are have a very fundamental category. So each time you encounter a moment, you can see the lack of knowledge, and because of this lack of knowledge, we still creating ego. That limited ego to protect the pride, that's another affliction. We are just recognizing the process by which we are afflicted, we feel suffering. So lack of knowledge gives the create finite I, means what I can do, what I cannot do, in that way. And in that process of finite knowledge, we what we are doing, look how we give our powers away and become a prisoner. And what yoga teaches, take the power and become enlightened. This is the crux. So recognizing how we are afflicted, how we become a prisoner, how we become a victim, how we start to suffer. So this limited I gets dependent on the feedback of the mind, which you are relating to. What you can do, what you cannot do. The moment this limited I becomes dependent, again, we are giving away our powers to somebody else. This somebody else, either we can be attached to it or we can hate it. Don't want to be attached at all or want to be attached fully. In both the way of attachment, what we call attachment we call when you give your power again away from yourself. So whatever you will be attached, doesn't matter, your property, your car, your wife, your son, the, the person happy, you are happy. The person sad, you are sad. That's we call attachment. Your power is away from you, and your happiness and sadness, your mood, it will be dependent on that object which you will be attached to. Doesn't matter what. That's why, in that sense, yoga says it's not good because you are giving your power away. How you will be enlightened? You need all the powers inside to bring it to the soul completely and fully. 100% energy you need to bring into yourself to connect with your soul. So this, you are giving away your powers. Okay, I am not attached. But even if you hate someone, your happiness and sadness will depend on that person. If you are hating it, person is misery, you are happy. Person is happy, you are sad. So in both way, this attachment and abhorrence or whatsoever, hate, or whatever word you want to, in both way, you are giving your powers away, and this is an affliction. Affliction means the misery will not be under your control. That's affliction. If it is under our control, that's not. If I cut my skin, I have Dettol, I have medicine, I can put it on, and it's fully under my control that I can repair it. It's not affliction. Affliction is somewhere it is out of your control. The button is not your hand. So how we create this affliction? Just to recognize it. This was attached, and at the end, yes, fear of death or fear of becoming nobody. Fear of death, many people say, oh, I don't have fear of death. Okay, then ego is created in do's and don'ts. Then idea, I will become nobody. Nobody will recognize me. I will be useless, worthless. I will become nobody. So these are the afflictions. Afflictions is when these ideas come and you see, oh, things are out of my control. And here, yoga control everything. Make everything in your hand, and you are capable of reaching heights beyond your intelligence can comprehend, beyond your mind can imagine. That's your capability. That's the fundamental of yoga philosophy on which all technology which is given. So this recognize the afflictions and find the sequence. So this affliction creation process and living life we call spiritually asleep or spiritually blind. No, it's not that we are blind and we cannot sense and we cannot. In a spiritual sense, it is used two ways: spiritual blindness and spiritual ignorance, both ways. If we become knowledgeable, what we will do? In this way, we are throwing away our power and becoming dependent for happiness and sorrow in my life, which is out of my hand. And that's a great suffering. My happiness and my sorrow is not in my hand. That's the great suffering. That's the suffering. Okay, so this is when we are spiritually blind. We do things like this, create misery and afflictions in our life. So in yogic way, when we encounter a phenomena of afflictions, there will be things, oh, things out of my control and I'm suffering. Is it? You can directly wake up. Wake up means what? Means immediately you connect to God. Make your mind arrow towards that which is beyond your intelligence. Superpower. So mind will be not going this way, direct it to another way. And in case, by grace, by accident, or by your penance, whatsoever the case, you get a glimpse which is beyond your intelligence. Then you will not create your ego that I am intelligent. No, intelligence lies beyond me. I get it a drop sometime. Your ego will be different. Your ego structure will change immediately. And at the same time, you are learning to connect. Then what I can do, what I cannot do, which is the boundary of ego on which we are suffering, that will be lost. Because now I am a medium. Now is not a question what I can do, what I cannot do. Now is a question what these superpowers can make me do, and it doesn't want me to do something. It's a different.
One quick question. What you're saying, when we say, okay, let me surrender and let me connect with this higher power, God, and let me ask for that grace. Now, I find a lot of people are doing that in a mechanical fashion, that, oh, I'm praying to God for release, for relief. But there is a part of the self or the ego which cannot trust that, oh, I cannot really do that. So how, almost like when you're speaking about yoga says do this, it's almost like black or white. Either you are focused on this, now change that and do that instead.
No, changing the direction, only direction. Mind looking left, mind looking right. Changing only the direction. And we are not talking about conviction and hypnosis. No, here is no hypnosis and convictions. Here is awakening. Awakening is a glimpse, even for 1 second, is awakening. Even for 1 second, you see that I am not immortal. Even for a glimpse of second, enough. Light is light. Darkness can be from millions of years. That's what we call it, connecting to God. A single, like 0.1 second, even for 0.1 second, that's what I said, by grace, by accident, by penance. But yoga will say it will happen by penance. It also
So
says
what is exactly penance? What is it? Are you
penance is you get a sadhana, you are a sadak, and you continue that in all kinds of mode.
Okay.
But it says you should be very enthusiastic to practice your sadhana and keep on exploring everything new. Well, if it is happening right way, you are guided by right people, right sadhana, you are excited every day to do this sadhana, to your practice one. So Patanjali says that it's believing in yourself and your effort. So here, believing yourself and your effort. So you take 1 hour sadhana and continue it and keep on studying if you are not excited, if you are not enjoying it, if you are not exploring it, keep on doing self-study, but keep on doing yourself. In spite of all the obstacles, and mind will come one upon another, all the obstacles, and you will be dealing with it. And one day you become independent and you become, everything comes under control. This is yogic method.
So then my next question is, the sadhana doesn't have to be the same practice all the time.
No, Malabika, it has nothing to do with practice. It has something to do with coordinating the cosmos and connecting the cosmos through your finite point. So you choose the time, place, and action. No, like you coordinate a certain time, a certain place, and you are doing a certain kriya. Whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever your guru has, your master has given you to practice in that situation.
This is where I had the misconception that the sadhana means there is one practice which you have been given or you have learned about, and you continue to do that. But and when I said that, in fact, in the last session, that I did not continue the sadhana, which is actually then not true. I did not continue that particular sadhana of the transcendental meditation, but I did move into a sadhana
something else. Doesn't matter. Like today you are doing Pavan Muktasana, tomorrow you do Sirsasana, and then after you said, okay, asana no more, I only meditate and I only do breathing or do nothing, whatsoever you are choosing. But this is needed for the transformation of the physical mind and body relationship. Behavior. To control the behavior of the person. Otherwise, if the higher energy will come, behavior will go out of control if this sadhana is not done. Like suppose J. Krishnamurti, no, he was trained by all the laws to make a person enlightened by Theosophical Society. So they experimented with all the laws which can make a person enlightened. So J. Krishnamurti, whatsoever, until he was brought to do sadhana, every morning he was instructed to get up and sit for half an hour in your meditation. So no excuse. You are sick, you are not feeling good, you are lazy, you are excited. Whatever the case was with J. Krishnamurti, not listening. You have to sit for half an hour in a meditation posture. Whatever he did doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. But this half an hour really worked in J. Krishnamurti to make him enlightened. It continued many years. So what happened? That 100% yes to an action. 100% yes to an action is the condition to bring all energy at once to a cell. 100% yes. And that is tested, time tested. So a half an hour sitting early morning, 5 o'clock, is not a big thing. But if you can do for 3 years, witness the miracle, God will look for you where you are sitting. God will look for you. So that's the yogic way. No, it's a yogic way. So these were the afflictions, my point was, and we all go in so many ways. So Malabika, you can see that these things, this is a fundamental structure which applies to beyond country, beyond caste, beyond, it is applied to any human rational mind. The process of finite intelligence creating finite ego and becoming dependent on this ego, becoming dependent, either attachment or hate, to somebody else outside and on the feedback of it. So we call it spiritually sleeping and awakening to infinite intelligence, where we surrender intelligence. Ego is surrendered. The moment ego meets a intelligence beyond, it has no other way. It has no other choice. It's choiceless awareness. You don't have choice. The ego will be silent. Well, later on, many people build upon it, on a spiritual experience also. You can build it. You can claim, oh, this is my intelligence. I had this great experience of God in my life, and you can again create your nonsense and go down the drain with the same process. But if you keep on, continue your sadhana, you will not be able to. You will not be able to. That saves. This is yogic path and yogic remedies. So this is where we will close today, 8-7. So my idea was to look at the traditional sutras, listen to someone who has traveled the path and encountered the same thing and find its own solutions in its own way. No? So listening to both will give better insight. Classical way and individual way. Each individual has its own story. So we are opening to our Pilar, Marvin, or somebody else. Pilar is also same sincere traveler, Malabika, like us. Marvin, a sincere seeker on path. Her English is not so well as ours. So you need to be slow and easy with Pilar in English and simple English.
Okay, well, it's my turn to talk then.
Yeah, you can understand Spanish and you can understand Pilar.
Yeah,
so you can also translate, yes. You both can.
Malabika wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
No, let me hear you. I was going to ask, I was thinking the next time we meet, the theme, as far as I can see, would be emotions. We talked today about the mind, learning to manage those emotions and what are the, what comes up. It's such a reactive thing. So that is what I was thinking. But I don't know what sutra you were thinking of.
I don't know what comes next. I don't know next sutras I will see. But keep your story to share and it will be relating to be anywhere in our sutras. Sutras are very broad. Anyone can bring a story in and they will accommodate.
Very good. Thank you. Marvin, go ahead.
Well, it's funny you said emotions because there is just so much I could relate to, and there's just so much that it made me even want not to say anything because there's just too much. Hopefully there's some transference. We're looking at each other through the screen. There's the presence and everything. But the fact that you said about emotions, what I did realize in my practice and trying to go to subtler states when you just lay down or you sit and you try to find some peace. Let's say you try to meditate. I realized that emotions are a direct correlation on how we relate to the world, through the ego. And so maybe it might be a good opening to that, is that the way we relate to the world and how we attach, just like expectations and attachments are inevitable in this form, in this human form that we're meant to play. We're meant to play with the attachment and with the expectation. But then comes the play, how to manage this, how to manage the thoughts, as you said, how to manage the correct expectations. Because if the expectations are too high and you fall too short, it might damage your ego, which will then damage your willpower. Maybe not. Maybe your ego, maybe you have tough and you can push, which I did for a little bit of time. For like 4 or 5 years, I was aiming very high. I was pushing myself. I was blinded in that sense. And I didn't realize how I was trying to cling on to others and looking at them and comparing. It was very innocent, but at the same time unconscious. There's no excuse for ignorance. It's just that karmically, when you don't know the first time, the karmic repercussion by an ignorant action is much less. As you gather more knowledge and you repeat the same action, the karmic repercussion becomes greater and you experience more pain and suffering. But well, for me, for the last years, it's been a bit like that. I had a moment of epiphany. I was doing my sadhana. It was a practice of Hatha Tantra that I got from Yogi Shri Niranjan. Hatha Tantra, yes. Well, yoga, different sequences. Basically, the idea of Hatha Tantra is you keep your presence. You try to be completely involved in your movement, right? You're aware of your breathing, of your presence, of the weight displacement, and of the movement, and that brings you inside. At the same time, I was doing many things. I could not realize at the time with the emotional management that I was going to burn out, which happened later. No, so I woke up one morning, and that's how the surrender happened to me. I was pushing fasting, meditation, the practice, the cleansing, and this and that, and I was just aiming way too high. But at that moment, it was good because I woke up, I was lying down, and I felt this, not hopelessness, but just this, I cannot do it. So I surrendered completely, and I want to experience that just powerful state that I was given. It felt like I was given, but that was not the case, because at that moment, and I still am in that state, my ego is very mature. It's very mature, and just how I relate to the world. No, I need to suffer more. What can I say? But I surrendered very deeply, and in a matter of minutes, I was propelled very deeply into a state of pure ecstasy, and I could feel how I could awaken and feel ecstasy at will, literally, by a simple thought. I could feel the greatest ecstasy in the whole world. But in the moment, it was funny what happened to me, and I understand why in my journey and in the person I aim to be, and this reason why I'm living this life is I got attached to it. I thought it was personal, but it goes back to this idea. And it made me smile a lot when Yogi Shri said, we build our ego and our spiritual experience, which is a mistake. It's not a mistake in the moment. It comes with learning, but that is settling. That's the act of settling, and that will impede you to keep on going, because you will settle. And it happened naturally for me because it shakes you. And what happened is I had that, let's say, that sexual emancipation, that emancipation of sexual energy, and I started feeling a lot of lust, a lot of sexual desire I could not feel before, because, well, if you feel the bodies, the chakras, when they get awakened, there's a boundary, there's a protection around them, that it protects you as well from influences, let's say, from different perceptions that you may have. So I started feeling a lot of lust. It was a very interesting time. I was joking a lot with myself, calling it the dark night of the soul and all this, all that, because there's all kind of resources on the internet nowadays on YouTube. So I went through a little period of 2 years where you can relate it to the Kundalini. The Kundalini goes up, it explodes on the hand. It was just a slight experience, but also it has to come down. And when it comes down, it destroys everything that is not aligned, right? If you're willing to, because I've heard, and that's not ideal, some people can close themselves to the experience and they try to find a way to put back all kinds of covers and then leave something else, right? But if you stay there, you realize it will just destroy you. It will destroy you, remove the shades of whatever keeps the ignorance, and because it needs to build you again. As Yogi Shri said, you know, it's not a matter of I can do this, I can do that. It becomes much more moral. There's something above you, and there's just much more intensity in life. Life becomes just so much more intense because you realize as well that it's tricky, you know, it's tricky. You cannot just say, oh, just this, just that. No, you have to really connect. There's that psychological need that also Krishnaji was talking about last time of relying on the higher power. There is that psychological need because you realize how I'm actually very limited. And despite some intelligence that has been awakened, if I don't keep myself connected there, I will self-destroy because I will do stupid things. I will hurt myself by hurting people. You realize maybe you have greater influence on others, like
I want
have.
to say can I say something, Marvin?
Yeah, tell me.
I want to say is that you are overthinking this to the nth degree. One of the things that you said is that what did you say? Once you have the knowledge, there is no ignorance is not an option. But here is the funny thing. When you are in a space of ignorance, you don't know you're ignorant.
Yeah. So, like the saying goes, ignorance is bliss.
I would say something. Intelligence. No, how we will define the intelligence? You are actually growing in intelligence, which is cutting the root of ignorance. It's only way to recognize that you are really growing with intelligence that you find that I was ignorant. When you say I was ignorant, means at that time you are intelligent. So recognizing the ignorance is the intelligence itself. Intelligence you cannot define any other way. When you say, oh, I was just stupid, means now you are intelligent. So recognizing its own stupidity and ignorance is intelligence, nothing else. Intelligence is nothing else. And you keep on realizing it every moment, every day.
I would love to hear something from Pilar.
Yes, I've been going too much. So
if Pilar is more confident in Spanish, she can still speak Spanish. Marvin can translate.
Yes, I can translate.
No,
definitely.
You can speak English. She can speak English. I can tell.
Yeah, she can speak. Hi, Pilar. No, she has been with me for months. We will together.
I want to tell you that I don't speak English very good. I don't understand very good. And I was trying to follow and write some beautiful things that I was listening that you told. But I want you to allow me not to speak because I don't have the vocabulary. So I prefer not to speak very much. And I want to be in touch with you, listening all these teachings. But I want to tell something that my teacher Krishna 7 years ago, he told me when I told him, oh teacher, but I don't speak English. And he gave me a yoga teacher training. And he told me, the yoga doesn't need words. It's going to happen. I don't remember exactly the word, but it's going to happen by osmosis or something like that.
Osmosis.
Yes.
Yeah, osmosis.
And then when I listened that, I say, okay, I continue. And today I said, okay, I'm going to be there listening and just feeling because I don't understand. So I appreciate you, your teachings, Malabika. I was listening beautiful things what you were telling us, because for me this topic is very, very interesting. I am codependence counselor. I don't know if the word is
Counselor.
okay.
Yeah.
Counselor.
So for me was very good to learn that, and about these things my teacher continue teaching me is for me very, very, I don't know, like expanding my conscious. I am in a work, in a process. And so just to say thank you for all of you. Thank you. Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, Pilar.
Thank you.
Your
Thank
your
you.
humility is most welcome, Pilar. You're very humble, and that's
Yeah.
that is the first foundation. If you want to receive all the greatest grace of the universe, you remain humble, and that's beautiful. So thank you, Pilar, for reminding us of humility with your presence.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin.
Oh, Pavel here. Pavel, you want to say something? We have still few minutes left for you.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting, Malabika, and one thing I just focus during your life. You said that you had few periods of darkness, few periods of depression, and when I read some Buddhist books, I realized that the Buddhists, almost every Buddhist realized that behind the darkness is a light. So it's very, for me, it's very important when I feel the darkness and I see the darkness, is to go forward, to press the button and go forward, because there, then after the darkness is a light. And another thing that I want to mention, that when I learn healing, and we discussed with Guruji about the ego, it's very important for the healer or for the doctor not to be egoistic and think that he is healing or he is treating the disease. No, the God is healing, or the God is treating, or the person itself, patient itself, make the difference in his life and can treat all the disease. So this is also very important, not to be egoistic and always rely and get connected to the source.
Okay, very nice, Pavel. It's also giving me a good idea for the next session, which ego and emotions becoming a pivotal point. So we can say the strategies of building ego and the methodologies given in yoga or tantra books, how to handle this ego issue in order to be awakened. So there are so many techniques I have learned and read in many books. I am confined to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, in which Ishwar Pranidhan is the simple way to surrender to God. But I may come across many other references from other books, how the Ramcharitmanas, how Bhagavad Gita, how other Upanishads, other disciplines, tantric disciplines are handling this ego and emotions to structure.
Nice.
If you are interested,
very much.
and how you come across, how you handle your ego or you encounter, that will be a nice story. I can give you a structural, which is applying to every human, like universal applications of techniques. Particularly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Namaste.
So see you next Friday. Thank you everyone for joining. Bring your friends. Yeah.
Love to see it.
Nice to see all meditators together.